Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the two of you who have been patiently waiting. Thank you to the person who liked the stream. You can reveal yourself now, whoever you are in the chat. Let me get myself set up so that I've got everything going ready for the stream. How's your FPL game weeks been? Mine's been good. Let's get my team up. So I put a bit of an agenda together for tonight, which is rare for me. But let's go over quickly what we're going to be talking about while we're waiting for the hordes to join us. So I'm just going to grab that up on my phone. If you've not caught a stream before, I'm Dave, Simple Goal on Twitter. And this season I'm streaming all of my FPL season so that I don't spend lots of time twiddling my thumbs and wasting time on FPL. And I'm also talking about all the things I'm interested about FPL and all the things that other people are. And we've got quite a few things to talk about tonight. So let me find out what we've got. For starters, we're going to be talking about the 5 to 6 million defenders and which of those are the best. There's a lot of good ones at the moment who we need to think about, so I'll be looking at that. We're going to be we'll talk about the Liverpool Crystal Palace match that's just finished tonight and the implications for that. Whether we should sell, obviously Nunez is a problem if you've got him. Whether we should sell Robertson. Also, whether selling Salah is a viable strategy. And my good friend FPL Tactician obviously has gone without Salah, and I think there's an argument to look at that as an option. We'll talk about it. We're also going to talk about who's the best third City asset, who look like the best team in the league at the moment. I'm going to talk about wildcard plans. I'm going to make a wildcard draft for a bit of fun, but also talk about my wildcard plans, which are a bit different to other people. And I'm going to talk about Neto and Bailey as well. Interested in that one. Own them both. Neither are performing great at the moment. And also answer questions and do all sorts of other stuff. So, how was your FPL game week? Stick it in the chat. Say hello in the chat if you're here. And that would be great to hear from you. And how did you get on this game week? We've got Andy Martin here in the chat. Good man. Ian Parrin. Evening, Ian. Dreadful start for Andy. 58 this week. Still 5 million rank. Mate, that is brutal. Absolutely brutal. I do feel for you. You made some bold calls. Haven't worked out so far. But that doesn't mean they won't, right? And I think, some of them can still come good. This is me. I got 76 this week, which is good. Very good, to be honest. Top million rank. I think my game week rank, that's about right, judging by live FPL. So Sanchez and Trippier in that Brighton 0 Newcastle 0 match, real heroes. Double Man City clean sheet. Obviously, Liverpool let me down, but a lot of people are on a Liverpool defender. Martinelli with another goal, looking like, I think he's gone up to 6.2 now, but I think he looks like an absolute bargain. I think if you're not on Martinelli, getting him in would be among my highest priorities, to be honest. Salah, blank. Neto, blank. Jesus, absolutely smashing it. He's another one who looks like, sorry to say it, Andy, he looks like borderline essential at that price of 8 million. What are you thinking on him, Andy? Is he finding a way to him? And Haaland captaincy, there, 10 points. Absolute beast he is, just slowly rolling those points. They didn't have his best game, did he? So I think again there's an argument to go without him. Let's talk about that as it comes up. So I'm gonna rattle through. Gary, evening Dave, 79 this week. No need to redact tonight. Well done, mate. 79. That is 3 more than me and a very, very good score. Should boost you up nice. My OR is now, I think is that been updated? I'm not sure. Let's have a little look and just check. Yeah, that's updated. I've only just loaded it. I don't know why. 407k. Very happy with that for starters. 79 is very nice, Gary. So look, I'm just going to quickly go over my team, how I feel about it right now, and then we'll get right into the meat of talking about the Liverpool game tonight. So basically, I've got to say, I feel pretty content with my team. I think Trippier's one who I'm considering letting go of. They've got a difficult fixture run now coming up. They've got City, then Wolves away, then Liverpool. So 2 out of their next 3 are really tricky. And then they've got a good run. I do think it's viable to hold because that run they've got there is really good. With so many other good defenders around, I think he's probably going for me, Trippier. Robertson I'm considering, subbed early tonight. Not a poor performance by Liverpool, I think. He's another one who I'm considering selling. Happy with Diaz, Cancelo, Trent, although again Diaz is one who he's not a problem, but I'm not sure he's optimal as the City pick goes. Happy with my keeper. We'll talk about Neto and Bailey later on, but for me personally right now I'm fine with them. And Martinelli and Jesus definitely keeping. Salah and Haaland for now I'm going to keep, but we'll talk about those when we talk about. So Liverpool performance tonight. Be interested to hear what people thought of the Liverpool game tonight. I felt like, basically, my very brief reflection on it was I thought they were poor again. I think, to be honest, there's alarm bells for me from an FPL perspective and from a football perspective. It reminded me a lot of what they looked like during that season where they really struggled to get that Champions League spot, where Alisson just about clawed it back for them with that goal at West Brom and they managed to make it. So I feel like there's some cause for concern with Liverpool. When I look at Trent, I feel like at 7.5, I think he's still good value. I think Robertson at 7 could be. I think Salah could be. But let's talk about Liverpool because they're very expensive. They take up a lot of our budget. And would it be better if we spread it elsewhere? I want to have a little play with that and see what we can do. Just to get to the chat there, Gary, I rolled my transfer. So I've got 2 free transfers and I've actually got $1 million in the bank as well. So I've got 2 free transfers and $1 million in the bank, which is like ultra flexibility for this stage of the season. Yeah. Ian Parrin, 62 for me. 3-medium attack. I'm not so keen on that. Leicester keepers, Bailey, Dean. Likely Dean to Perisic and kick the second free transfer can down the road. Now, Ian, I don't know if your FPL strategy is like your Sky strategy, but I would be personally potentially more aggressive on that. I think Dean's got to go, but I think Bailey's a problem. I'm not sure about double Leicester keepers either, and 3-medium attack, I'm not sure whether that's optimal either with spreading funds around. But let's see how we go and how we talk about it as the evening goes on. Evening Bricky, evening Peter, good to see you guys. How'd you get on this week? How are your points? My wife's here. Do you want to say hi, Abby?
Hi.
She doesn't want to be on the camera, clearly. Finding 50p for the Tooth Fairy, nice. Noah, evening. No Salah finally paid off this week after the jammy returns from last week. They were jammy, to be honest. 6 million to 1.7 is nice. Kane and Haaland, 8 goals, 1 assist is cap, yeah. Big Geek, 79, probably same as many others. Big Geek, that's a great score, same as Gary, but not the same as Andy Martin or many others who have, and Ian, 62. It's a good week. It's I wouldn't write off too quickly. Leo, good 11, thank you, Leo. Are you worried about having bench options with Andres? No, I'm not too worried. We'll go into my team in a bit. I'm going to sort it out, and towards the end of the stream, I'll do some stuff. But no, I'm not worried, to be honest. So Liverpool, let's just have a quick talk about Liverpool. So in terms of FPL, let's go to the transfer screens. Liverpool assets, I am happy to say right now that I think they're really struggling. And I think we need to consider them. In terms of FPL, we've got Robbo, Trent, obviously very popular. And then there's Salah, Luis Diaz down there, and Darwin Nunez. Obviously, Nunez off is a big factor. And that's if you've got Nunez, he has to be a sell now. He's going to miss 3 games suspended. You're going to need to bring someone else in. Firmino could be an option to go direct to the replacement Liverpool attacker. But I think, to be honest, I wouldn't be doing that just because Firmino is not a prolific scorer in FPL as much as I like him as a player. Now, Andy Martin is gone Salah-less. And I know all the stats guys say that Salah's an amazing pick. We know Salah's an amazing pick. You know, when you only need to look back at the season history there for an unbelievable record for goals and assists, like so good. For me, there's a big question mark though as to whether that 13 million could be better spent elsewhere. A general point on Liverpool for me that's worth flagging though, if you look ahead at their fixtures, they've got Man United next, and we know Man United have been horrendous this weekend, and then they've got Bournemouth at home. Now, I personally think with Liverpool assets, we don't need to be too hasty because they've got 2 excellent games, followed by what I would say Newcastle at home I think is tricky. Everton away, I think local derby, they should win that fairly okay, but you know what a local derby is like, anything that can happen. They then got Wolves, which is a good fixture I would say, and Chelsea away, which is difficult. So I think personally we don't need to be too hasty because of the Man United away, Bournemouth home fixtures coming up. But in my mind, I'm sort of thinking if I don't see very much from them in these next 2 games, then I want to be thinking about what are my escape routes from these players, even from Salah. There's so much money tied up in Salah, and obviously with Andy he spread the money around, but that would be exactly the same thing, like downgrading Salah to Diaz, for instance. And again, there's only 6 points between them right now. I don't know if Diaz is in for some bonus as well. Gives me 6 million to play with, which is a huge amount of money to upgrade Bailey to an 11 million asset. It allows me to upgrade Neto to, does that even get me to, nearly gets me to KDB. It's a massive change in the team to do that, and I think I personally think we have to consider it as good an option as Salah is. If they struggle in the next 2 games, not going to captain him against Newcastle personally. I think Everton's a risky game to captain him. You would against Wolves, but you wouldn't against Chelsea. They then run into Brighton, Arsenal, Man City as a run. Now, I think Liverpool assets are good. We don't need to panic. They've had 2 poor games. I am a little bit worried, to be honest, but I think these next 2 games are significant, and I think it's good to have an escape route if, like me, you're on the triple up. Now, I am considering selling Robbo. I'm not going to sell Salah in the next 2, but I am going to consider selling Robbo. Like I said, I've got the defensive double up. Like, I would back him and for 2 clean sheets if I had to guess in these next 2 games. But at 7 million again, downgrading him to one of the 5 million players like a Kukurea, or I know Zinchenko's gone up a bit with Zinchenko. It really does free up funds to do some interesting things with the rest of my team. So I haven't totally ruled it out. For instance, Robertson and Neto could go to something like Luis Diaz again, or Foden, or someone around that price point to a 5.5 million defender. Now, that's a significant upgrade from Neto to Diaz. I have got the million in the bank, so I know not everyone's going to be in that position. And then I could get a really good other defender in there, like Kukurea or Zinchenko. So Robertson is under consideration. I feel reluctant to sell him, but I think there's enough problems in that Liverpool team by the looks of it to me that I think it's worth sort of having a little play for now and seeing how it goes. Matt Clark, hi Dave. Hi Matt, welcome. Salah to KDB, he looks so central to a flowing. Like I said, I think Salah needs a couple more weeks. You could go to KDB again. If you look at Man City's fixtures, I think this Newcastle match here coming up is a tricky one, so I wouldn't be doing that. I think personally for Salah, you've got to give him the next couple of games, and I think there's an argument to give all the Liverpool players the next couple of games, and then make a choice. I think he's got Bournemouth in game week 4. I just wouldn't rush into it. We still have only got 2 weeks of data. It's still very little of the season is gone. I think you want to gather more. I think KDB is obviously a great pick, but I would just hold your horses on that one. Motley Barnett, hello mate, how you doing? Nice to see you here with us. Thanks for tuning in. So that's my very brief thoughts on the Liverpool match. There's nothing groundbreaking in there, but I do think sometimes we can... There's two risks. One is that we go into this thing where it's like, I've got to sell my Liverpool assets. They've played badly. They've not returned the points I wanted. Robertson's on 3. Trent's on 3. I've got to do something. I think that's not right. And then I think the other thing that we can do is just be like, well, Salah's the best asset in the game, and Liverpool great, and Liverpool the second best team, or one of the best teams, maybe arguably the best team in the league. I've got to hold them. And I think it's good to just have a bit of a theory and an eye on, okay, what would be my route out of here? And not to either panic and sell straight away, but equally not to think, okay, I'm going to hold these indefinitely. So I think it's good just to start coming up with some ideas of what you could do if you move them on. So that's in my mind. I'm going to talk about wildcard strategy in a bit, but it's linked to Liverpool because I'm considering... it's way too early for me to make wildcard strategy, and I want to be open about what I could do, but I'm considering personally... I know a lot of people are considering wildcard around 8 or 9. I'm actually considering wildcarding maybe after game week 11, possibly, loosely as a plan, which would allow me to offload basically some Liverpool players before Chelsea, Brighton, Arsenal, Man City. Now, and I could start doing that a bit earlier, like I say, if I wanted to. So that's in the back of my mind. So that's Liverpool thoughts. And again, in terms of Salah thoughts, I don't know, as a non-owner, I'd be interested, I don't know if Andy's still here, but I'd be interested to know how he's feeling about not having Salah right now, because I still feel like I'm beginning to think about what could I do with that money if I sold him, and if I was putting the armband elsewhere as a bit of a differential move and all that sort of stuff. But I'd be interested to know how it feels as a non-owner right now with Man United and Bournemouth coming up, because those are still 2 threatening fixtures. So I think for now, for me as a hold, but I can see different possibilities. Some big scores actually just seeing up there in the chat. Peter Scullion 83 with KDB cap, very nice. And Bricky 84, and it's 69k overall. That's fantastic, Bricky. That is great work. Good stuff. And I love Peter with the KDB captain. A differential captain coming in is one of the best things in FPL. I love it. Yeah. So let's talk about defenders, because I'm going to probably sell Trippier. Now my logic for selling Trippier is I feel like my team is very strong. Someone did flag up about Neto and Bailey. Tell you what, let's talk about Neto and Bailey first, because someone asked about it in the chat. It was Leo, said, am I worried about having bench options with Andreas' possible injury and Bailey not starting? Well, let me show you, Leo. So, I haven't set my bus team. As you know, I only do stuff when I'm live on stream. I don't do any FPL website stuff when I'm not live, or at least being recorded. So, I've got a tricky decision between the keepers. I won't agonise over that now. I'm happy with the Liverpool players against Man United. I'm happy with the Man City players against Newcastle. Even though I think they're not like that. That Newcastle game I think is tricky. I think the Liverpool game is okay for them. Trippier is someone who I wouldn't want to play at home to Man City. It's one of the few games where I feel like I just, even though it's at home, just don't really want that. So I would be looking at Andreas into my starting 11 for that. Martinelli, Bournemouth away, fine, very, very happy with that. Salah, very happy with that. Holland, I am fine with that. And Jesus, again, very happy. I think right now my thinking is to captain Salah. We didn't know how Darwin was going to affect Salah. I think with no Darwin, I would think Salah's going to be the main man again. Liverpool desperately need the points. Man United are so shot for confidence. Jesus, I think, could be another really good captaincy shout this week. I feel like it's a difficult one. Like, haven't really put too much thought into it before now, but I think Jesus is brilliant. Let's have a little look at what the odds are. This is something I always like to do, is just to see how likely the odds are for a player to score a hat-trick and to score a goal. I don't know why I type William Hill. Just that's an easy website to navigate, I find. Yeah, Leo, you've said the exact same thing, that potentially Darwin being out could actually benefit Salah. I agree with that. And Matt's saying Chelsea's next three are good attacking fixtures. I'm looking to bring Mount or Sterling in. Yeah, I like both those picks. I'm going to talk about the 8 million mids. I'm not convinced on Sterling yet, but I think they're both good options. The one that I really like, Reece James. I think I'm going to buy Reece James this week. Let's have a look. So, anytime goal scorer, Gabriel Jesus, he's 7 to 10. I don't even know how you say that. I'm not really into betting. I think betting's rubbish. But he's 7 to 9 and 16 to 1 for the hat trick. Let's compare that against Salah. By the way, I strongly suggest you don't start betting. Betting's really bad for your health. So I'm only using this for FPL purposes. And let's see where we're at with Salah. So Salah is 3 to 4 and he's 18 to 1 for the hat-trick. So they think Jesus is more likely to do better. Now obviously I would say that puts them bookies wise at a pretty even position, Salah and Jesus, because Salah's odds are slightly worse than Jesus's, but you've obviously got extra points for goals, you've got the clean sheet point as well. So I would say they're on pretty level pegging between those two. I'm definitely between those two as my choices. I think I'm leaning towards Salah because he has pens and just Man U looked so terrible. Although Liverpool haven't looked good and Arsenal have. I think I'm going to go Salah. He trashed them at Man United last season, didn't he? So let's go with that. In terms of, someone mentioned about Bailey and Neto. So I'm not happy about playing Neto at Tottenham. But when I got Neto at the start of the season, I said on stream, he's the sort of player you bring in. You've got manager expectations. You hope for one return maybe every 4 games. I don't expect him to get anything at Spurs, to be honest. I'd rather have someone else. Likewise with Andreas, I'd really rather have someone else. Now he has also got a knock, and yeah, that it is what it is. But hopefully he'll be okay. I don't know if there's any more news on what that knock is like. I'm okay to start with that. Now looking at that, there is an argument for me, I think, to probably make my second transfer as well. Obviously Trippier's nailed to play, but I don't feel any more excited about him than any of these other options. In terms of Neto Bailey, I think Neto's a hold for me. I think he's at a cheap price point. I don't think there's any need to splurge money on those cheaper price points in your team. So for me it's Neto, it's Bailey. For other people I know those are 2 popular players, but those cheaper price points around the midfield and attack, I just think it's okay to bench them. It's okay to settle down. You're looking at one return every 3 or 4 weeks. And for me personally, I'm happy to say do you know what? Roll the dice. It's unlikely. It's the other 9 players in my team that I'm mostly worried about, and I fancy all of the other 9 players in my team to do okay. And I think I'm going to start Sanchez over Ward, just to say as I look at this, because I think I just don't trust Leicester's defence, and I do trust Brighton to do a good job against the West Ham team that have looked fairly blunt so far. Noah's saying Nunez out massively benefits Diaz as well. I mean, Diaz looked like a different player with Nunez off the pitch, but I don't know whether that was what was the cause of that. But yeah, Diaz I think is a great pick, and if I could get to him easily for these next 3 matches, I'd rather have him over Robertson now for sure, for the next 3. Yeah, you can spin the narrative both ways. I think you can spin the narrative both ways, but I also think it's indisputable that that we know what Liverpool look like with Salah and Diaz and Firmino as their front 3, and we know it's good for Salah and Diaz. So you can spin it both ways, but I think we're safe to say that Liverpool look good that way. Gary's saying if you were to bring another Arsenal player, would you go treble attack, a defender, or not considering it at all? So I'm considering Zinchenko as another player in the back of my mind who I might bring in this week. I think he's looked really good. I know he's been subbed early, but I rate him massively as a player. I thought it was a fantastic signing when they got him. I think Zinchenko is a great option, partly because he plays so high up the pitch for them as well. You know, he's creating chances. He's in and around the action, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets more attacking returns. Arsenal look brilliant. Their fixture run's brilliant. I don't see any reason to not go in hard on that. Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, Man United have been rubbish. Everton, Brentford. I think primarily they're great attacking fixtures for goals. But I think given the price points, Saka would be the other attacker I'd be looking at. He's 8 million. I think there's a lot of good options at 8 million. So Zinchenko is the one that I'm seriously considering as a attacking fullback who could also potentially be pushed into midfield at times if Tierney comes in. So that's what I'm looking at. So talked on Neto and Bailey. Like I say, I just don't think it's worth it. If Bailey gets 1 point off the bench even, I can accept that and live with that. These guys are potential, like I'm talking about with Robbo and potentially Salah, they are players who I feel like I need to have a look at going forwards and just have an escape route to. But I don't feel like this week is the week I need to do it. So, yeah. In terms of, let's talk about defenders. Having talked about Nat and Bailey, let's talk about defenders. So, like I said, I'm going to move on Trippier this week, I'm pretty sure. So let's look at this is my pre-season watch list, I think. So you can see there a good bunch of players. So I'm going to remove Chilwell from that because I don't think he's a player who I want anymore with Cucurella around. And the Liverpool boys have already got, so let's shift them off. I've already got Diaz and Cancelo. And I think they're both great options. I'm going to leave Trippier on because even if I sell Trippier, he's someone who I think I could potentially buy back in time. But I think let's talk about what we've got here. So these are actually the main options I'm considering. I'm just wondering if there's anyone else who I've missed. Oh, Reece James actually is the one I'm seriously considering, so I need to stick him on there as well. I didn't consider Reece James at the start of the season properly because I was worried that he was going to be playing at right centre-back. He did play there against Tottenham, but he got pushed into wing-back and he just looked so dangerous. I'm just having a quick scan through the teams to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone else. But I am not. So in terms of these 5-6 million defenders, now I've got Diaz in my team, so I'll try and factor him in because I know a lot of people don't. But we've basically here, we've got in price order, we've got Cucurella and Trippier at 5, Zinchenko at 5.1, Perisic at 5.4, and James and Diaz at 6. So it's a really difficult one. I've got $1 million in the bank, so I feel quite lucky. If I went, say, Trippier to James, I think, like for me, James is the standout option. So someone asked a question about James versus Cucurella. I think that Reece James is worth the extra $1 million over Cucurella. The reasons are, I think, Cucurella can play left wing back, obviously, and he would be a brilliant option if we knew he was nailed and Chilwell was injured. But Chilwell is in and around the team. He's getting himself up to fitness. We know that Chilwell is a brilliant player. And I think the logical thing for Tuchel to do when he can is to play Chilwell and James as the wing backs, and then to play Cucurella, Koulibaly and Thiago Silva, with I suppose Silva in the middle, as his 3, because Cucurella is a really, really good centre-half. He'd have the height of Silva and Koulibaly. So I expect to see... I mean, Gary, I know you're a big Chelsea fan, so I'd be interested to hear your perspective, but I expect to see Cucurella at centre-back at least as much as he's at wing-back once Chilwell's fully up to speed. We might get Cucurella for a few games, and someone said, they've got good attacking fixtures coming up. They do. Look at that picture. What a baller. They do have good fixtures coming up from an attacking perspective, like someone flagged up in the chat. But yeah, I want this defensive positions to be players who I feel like I can trust, players who are going to be reliable, who are going to be in the position I want them to be in. So I think James over Cucurella for me. I think Perisic is very worthy of consideration at 5.4. Again, looked good when he came on, took set piece, set up the goal. I still want to see him start before I buy him. Conte has made another comment at the weekend about how he's not up to speed yet. So he's another one who is on my watch list, but who is definitely under consideration. Zinchenko, I think that 0.1's annoying, isn't it, that he's gone up by that? But I think he's a really, really good option as well. He's been highly creative. Again, we don't need to go on these ICT ranks too much, but creativity, they're 15th out of defenders, 18th for threat. I feel like he's in the mix. He's getting involved. He is creating chances. He's playing in a team that look really good. It's so frustrating they keep conceding silly goals, but I think he could be a really fantastic option. So for me, I do want Reece James in my team going forward. And yeah, I think he's going to be my pick this week, Reece James, as the best option out of this bunch. Now, one thing I am considering in my defence going forward would be to look at something like losing Diaz and Robertson as expensive players and ending up with something like this. So that's obviously 3 real premium defenders of James, Trent and Cancelo, who would basically just be there for the season. Now, I've lost Diaz, I've lost Robertson, who are both undoubtedly good options, but by bringing in Zinchenko and Trippier, who are players I'm pretty much happy to play in almost any game at 5 million, that gives me 2.9 million, which would allow me to upgrade Neto to one of the 8 million mids. So that's the sort of thing where I feel like, I think that's the direction I want to go in. I feel like there's enough value at this 5 to 5.5 price point. So we've got Perisic, Cucurella, these two. Let's have another quick look and just see what highly owned defenders are below 5.5. So the ones that I've just mentioned, we've got Kyle Walker as well. He is using up a Man City spot, but again, I think he's an interesting one. I'm going to stick him on my watch list because I think he's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Could go down at a 4.5 like a White or a Saliba. I'm personally not too interested, even like a Dunk. Brighton have got good fixtures. Personally not too interested in that, but I really like this structure of 3 premium defenders and then a couple of sort of sub-premium or more expensive budget options, depending how you want to frame it. I think that's the structure of the team that I want. Now, there is an argument for me, and I guess for others if they want to do it, to say, well, look, if this is a price point you want, why not this week sell Robertson, for instance, and get closer to the price point? Because I could go for Robertson to Zinchenko and immediately upgrade Neto to a more expensive player. Yeah, it's an interesting option, isn't it? I'd be interested to see in the chat what people think. Big Geek saying Gabriel for Arsenal. I personally prefer Zinchenko. I think he's going to get forward more. I think he's going to get more attacking returns. I think he's nailed. I would rather have Zinchenko over Gabriel personally, even for the extra 0.1 or 0.2 if it comes to that. But yeah, so I could look at that sort of a move. That would sort out my problem with Neto for this week. If I went for, instead of, if I did decide to go for Cucurella, I could go for a straight up Bailey to Foden, Saka, whoever upgrade, which is a massive upgrade. I just have that concern about Cucurella. Like, is he definitely going to play? If he does play, what position is he going to play in? Those aren't questions I want to be asking about a player in my first 11. If he was a bench option, I'd be happy to say I'll take a punt on him, take a risk on him, see how it goes. I want to be getting players in who I feel really confident are going to be playing. So, although as much as I like Robbo to Cucurella, I feel like Robbo's got great fixtures for the next couple at least. So I'm going to hold off on that one. I think much more likely that I go Trippier to James. And then it obviously it exhausts my funds and leaves me with an uber premium defence. But I think I'm happy with that. So in terms of those 5-6 million defenders, that's my thoughts on those. I think Zinchenko's nailed. Yeah, Big Geek. I think he's nailed. I mean, they've just spent a lot of money on him. I know that Tierney's over his shoulder, but I think surely they'd put Zinchenko into midfield ahead of some of their other midfield options, like that role that Xhaka's playing at the moment. Surely you'd rather have Zinchenko playing that role than Xhaka if you had to choose. So even if Tierney comes in the team, I imagine that Zinchenko would sit in the midfield. He is so good. I think, I feel like we're going to realise how good he is this season. When you see him play for Ukraine, he runs the show for them, and I think he could do the same for Arsenal in the Premier League, I think, personally. Gary's, he's Planet FPL's Chelsea correspondent. He knows his stuff as well as being a great guy. He's Phantom Antle on Twitter. Give him a follow. He says Chelsea might sign someone. Fofana is the one we want, but if we get a right wing back instead, it changes everything. That's true, actually. For now, that's Cucurella left wing back, Reece right wing back in the short term. They're both great options. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen any right wing backs linked. Do you expect to see a right wing back coming in? I feel like that slightly spooked me, if I'm honest, because I was pretty set on Reece James, and that has slightly spooked me. But surely they can't put Reece James at centre back all season. Maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see. I mean, that does make me think, well, should I go to someone like a Zinchenko, who's got brilliant fixtures too? The reason I didn't buy Reece James, like I said from the off, was because I was worried about his position, and I don't want him if you play centre back. But there is an argument to say go for someone like a Zinchenko. Keeps money in the bank for me, keeps things ticking over, and then I can make a choice down the line. Could look at... I don't really want to be selling Ruben Dias as well with his fixtures to come there. You'd be backing him for clean sheets in certainly 2 of those next 3, I think. Okay, I still think I'm going to pencil in Reece James. I'm actually going away on holiday on Wednesday, so I want to sort of basically make my choice before then without injury, and just sort of see what injury news comes up. But we talked about that. I said I was going to talk about 8 million mids as well, because I think this can be a key price point. I don't have an 8 million slot in my team as it stands, but like I said, that is a slot that I'm looking to create. So in terms of those 8 million mids, I've got quite a few of them on my watch list, I think, because I think it's such a good slot. If we go sort by price here. So here we've got Bowen at 8.5, we'll include him in the chat. We've got Kulusevski at 8.1, Saka at 8, Mount at 8, Maddison at 8, Luis Diaz at 8, and Foden at 8. We'll discount the Man United mids for now, because Man United looks so terrible. But I think these are our main 8 million mids that we're considering. Now, I think all of those players that I've just said the names of, I think they're all really good options. So I think that's the first thing to put out there, is I think they're all brilliant. And that's, again, talk about selling Salah, right? If you sell Salah, it allows you to do something like, I'm just going to pick a bunch of random ones, like that. And that leaves me with 0.5 in the bank. So you can get 3 of these really top quality 8 million assets and sort of probably rotate them around a bit. That's with a super premium defense as well. So this is where selling Salah comes in, because it allows you them. And I think I can't quite express how good at options I think they are. I think they're all good value as well. Now, I'm interested to know, so out of these 8 million mids, how would you rank them? What would be your order of preference? Let's include Bowen in the mix. Tell you what, let's sack off Bowen. He's had a bad start to the season. He's a bit more expensive. I think he's going to have his time, but let's sack him off. Let's say out of Kulusevski to Foden. So for me personally, my thinking right now is that Foden, obviously he only played 45 at the weekend. He got a goal and an assist in that time. It's been seasons now of Foden being on the brink of breaking through, and I've had him quite a few times. He's done okay at times, disappointed at others. Is it another false dawn? Maybe, but I think Foden's an outstanding option, and I think out of all of those players, Foden and Luis Diaz are the 2 that I want the most. I think they're playing in the 2 best teams out of that bunch, and it's a good bunch of teams. I think they're very important to the way they play. Obviously, with Luis Diaz now, with Darwin out, I think both of those, and I think Foden is the one that I am really keen on. I've just got that feeling that for years he's threatened. He's been getting into good positions. He's been creating chances. Looks like an outstanding player. Pep talks him up. I think he's the one I want, and that's part of the reason as well why I would potentially look at downgrading Diaz to a cheaper option, is because I think Foden as an 8 million mid is a super pick, basically. So I think for me it would be Foden followed by Diaz. Obviously last week everyone was talking about Kulusevski and what a great option Kulusevski was. He played very poorly, I thought, against Chelsea. No problem. Players are going to have bad games from time to time. They've got a great run of fixtures for Spurs. Again, he was in my thoughts earlier in the season. I still feel like I want to see how Richarlison impacts things. I think Saka would be slightly lower down my list also, because I feel like you've got Martinelli, you've got Jesus. I don't particularly want the Arsenal triple up. So I think, again, Kulusevski and Saka would be down the bottom for me of that 8 million mid list, just in terms of the other options that are available, and also with Kulusevski minutes. Mount and Maddison are both nailed. I think Mount, I really like Mount. People seem to be a bit nervous on him. That's probably because he's not got the points so far. But again, good attacking fixtures to come. He's the main man at Chelsea. He's their midfield talisman. I feel like he's a boring pick, but if you want to just pick one and stick with them, I think Mount's great. I mean, I say he's boring. 11 goals, 11 assists last season is hardly boring, is it? He looks fantastic. As a solid, safe pick. He's not going to get you loads and loads and loads of points, but he'll just tick along, in my opinion. And then I'd put Maddison probably third out of the bunch for me. Already got a goal and assist this season. The fixtures look decent, but I think, again, he's so their talisman, and last season he really improved his attacking output. 12 goals, 11 assists, and 181 points, so more bonus points, I guess, than Mount, because Mount was down on 168. So I think I'd put Maddison fractionally behind. Well, not fractionally. I think Luis Diaz and Foden are quite clear, but I think I would put Maddison fractionally ahead of Mount, and then I'd have Saka and Kulusevski next down my list. So that's what I'd be looking at. Vic D says, would it be smart to go from Saka to Martinelli? Depends what other priorities you've got, Vic. I feel like you need to consider what you could do with that transfer elsewhere. But for me, Martinelli right now, that 1.8 million rather that you save by going from Saka down to Martinelli is money is very useful, and I think it would be a sensible move. TW saying Mount is a poor pick. I'd be interested to know why you think Mount is a poor pick. I think Mount's got a load of returns in big wins. Well, it's not a problem, right? I mean, returns are returns. I don't understand that perspective, to be honest, in terms of why do you think that's bad? If anything, that's good because it makes his returns more predictable, and you could shuffle him. I think personally I would want to keep him, like I say, but if you want to shuffle him, that makes him even more appealing, in my opinion. But FPL is a game of opinions, and that's what it's all about. Just to go back to James, Gary said Dumfries was linked. Yeah, he was. I forgot about that. It's gone a bit cold, but it would be if Leicester really play hardball, as apparently Inter do need to sell. Arguably just get Reece, change in 3 game weeks, or on a wildcard for some right back. I think that's where I'm at in my head. I feel like Reece is going to play, isn't he, for the next few games. I think I'm going to go with him. I want to keep an eye on these price rises as well. Did have a little look. It looked promising that Reece wasn't going to go up, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. Big Geek, yeah, if you've got any other midfield options to chuck into the mix, do chuck them in now. Big Geek JWP seems forgotten. I'm a Southampton fan. I love JWP, I think he's a great player, but I just don't love him as a fantasy asset. His returns are unpredictable because he gets a lot of free kicks and pens. He's not that attacking. He's not playing in a very good team, sadly. He's not bad value at 6.5, but I just think, again, you've got Martinelli close by, even cheaper. I mean, but you've got Martinelli at a similar price point. You've got the likes of Neto. I think Rodrigo, by the way, I bigged up Rodrigo a week or two ago. Another couple of goals. He's another one who I think will be an interesting one to watch. He's clearly being told to get in the box, having a lot of shots. I think he had 3 or 4 shots on target at the weekend, which are very promising. So Rodrigo is one who's in my mind as well. Yeah, but sorry, so JWP, I just don't think he's as appealing as those other options. I wouldn't go for it. I don't think Leicester and Man U are hard defences at all. I said that at the start of the season as well, Biggie. When I was talking about Tony, I feel like those are 2 great fixtures. I just think every team's a hard defence for Southampton, is the honest truth. They're not very good. Motley, would you do Son Bailey to Kulu Gundogan? So, and Gundogan's an interesting one. I know you're a City fan, mate. So you obviously fancy him. Gundogan should be in the mix of this conversation as well. Is he 7.5? Let's have a little look. I'm going to stick him on my watch list because I feel like 7.5. He had that season here, 13 goals, 4 assists, and 8 goals, 5 assists isn't bad. I just want to see what happens with the transfer window really with him. If Bernardo goes, Gundogan is going to be in everyone's team, isn't he? I think it's a little bit early to go. Can you not afford 2 8 million mids would be the question for me. If you're sort of shopping around that price, I think I'd be looking at freeing up. So 12, you got 17 million out of those 2 players. That suggests you could afford it. I would personally say Son, Bailey out to 2 8 million mids. I think it's valid. I've got Son in one of my Sky teams. I thought his performance was again poor, very unlike Son, and I actually thought in the first game of the season as well, just didn't seem like his normal self. Like he really had a great chance to tee up Kane, didn't do it. Don't know if something's up there, but I think that the only question is, Son, he's got Wolves next, then he's got Forest. Do you really want to be selling Son before those 2 fixtures? Do you really see the gain for Kulu over Son and Gundogan over Bailey? It's 50-50 call. I know that's not a helpful answer, but I think you've got to weigh up the fact that Son could really haul in those 2 fixtures versus the Bailey thing. I think, do you know what I'd say? If Bailey's in your first 11, I think I'd make the move. I wouldn't pick Gundogan. I'd pick someone who's more nailed and a safer pick. But, not to say that Gundogan's a bad pick, but like, for instance, Foden and Kulu. Or, like I said, my 2 favourites would be Diaz and Foden. So that's what I'd be looking at. And I think if you're relying on Bailey to start, I'd do it. And if you're not, then I probably would just hold off for a bit. TW, Chelsea won't be whacking teams. Couple goals with pens. Yeah, I still think Mount's a good pick. Noah's saying Mount does good against bad defences and just look at the defences they're about to play. Yeah, good point, Noah. Hard to disagree with that. Vic is saying, I've won premium with Saka, Mount and Kulusevski. Maybe I could go Ramsdale, 4.5 attack at 8 mil to Raya, Martinelli and Tony. I mean, again, for me, it's like, that doesn't feel like transfers well spent, to be honest. So when I talked about Bailey, that's only my opinion, but when we talked about Bailey and Neto, my thing is like, do you really want to be spending transfers fiddling about with those price points where you're not going to get big returns anyway? I want to be using my transfers on positions like the premium defenders, premium attackers, premium midfielders, where it feels like you're really going to get a lot of punch. The only exception to me would be like if you actually want to restructure your team, then I think I would look at those sorts of moves. But you've got Raya to Ramsdale there, that's roughly equivalent, and then Martinelli and Tony you're getting in for a 4.5 attacker and an 8 million mid. It's that thing of like, do you need those players to start? Like your 4.5 attacker at the moment is a sub. I would say keep the funds on the pitch. Potentially I'd look at just doing, if you want to free up some funds, do the 8 million mid to Martinelli, sit on that for a week and see what happens. Grab some more info, grab some more data, and then decide. Would be the way I'd think about it. A couple of questions about captaincy and I guess player selection. Mac, if that's Mac, FPL Mac from Twitter. Hello. Got a few questions coming in, so I'll answer them as we go. Usually do it at the end, but I say usually I've only done about 5 streams. But yeah, let's just do it. So I've already talked about my captain for next week. I'm between Jesus and Salah. I think it's 50-50 call, and right now I've put it on Salah. Haaland or Kane for game week 3. If it's about owning, I think there's a good argument to say just stick with whichever one you've got, and that's what I would do. If you're picking and you really, I would say I'd prefer Kane over Haaland this week, personally. James Sexton, De Silva, Damsgaard or Tony? Well, they're all different price points, and that's a factor. If it's purely in terms of points, it's got to be Ivan Tony out of that bunch. But they're all different price points. Difficult question to answer, James. What are you thinking for? But yeah, Tony for me all the way. Is Perisic worth the early switch? Again, TW talked about that a little earlier. Yeah, you just said, yeah, I did mention it a little bit earlier. Don't worry about the fact you got it late. That's all good. So have a little rewind. I think Perisic is a good pick, but I've said I want to see him starting. Let me just check the little agenda I had, because I feel like we've covered most of the topics. Wildcard is the only thing we haven't covered. So, and I'm also going to just check there's no questions that I haven't. So in a minute, I'm going to talk about my wildcard strategy. That's very flexible. I just want to check if there's any other questions that I said I'd answer that I haven't. Let's have a little look. Sorry about this. Just having a quick look. I feel like I can't find the thing that I sent out about it. Well, with apologies to people who asked me a question, I cannot find the questions that people asked. So hopefully I've answered them okay. But if you're here, feel free to chuck them in the chat if I haven't. Big Geek, no idea where to move. All my picks feel solid and have 2 free transfers. Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I don't feel like desperate. You know, I'm selling Trippier to James. It feels like a good upgrade, but I don't feel desperate about it. But that's a good thing. If your team's in that position, just enjoy it. Try and stay away from that wild card, would be my opinion. I know some people will be like, take some risks because you can wild card out of it. Right now, I think the optimal thing to do is gather that data, make moves that aren't going to force you towards the wild card, and just keep your options open as much as possible. Motley's saying he's making a sideways move from Bailey to KDH so I don't burn a free transfer. Yeah, like I said earlier, mate, I feel like is that where you want to be spending your transfer on the 5 million players? That would be my only question. I think KDH is a better option than Bailey for sure. So it's a sort of slight upgrade, isn't it? But it's just whether you want to put the money there. Oh, I see what you're saying, Vic. Can't bring in Martinelli because I have Ramsdale and goal unless I transfer Saka out for Martinelli. I mean, I'd do Saka for Martinelli. I think you're getting similar returns and output personally for that. So personally, I go with that. Yeah. Big Geek saying can't see any moves at all. Post your team in the chat and we can have a chat about it after I've done the wildcard bit. I think burning a transfer is absolutely fine. I've only ever done it once, but my team was in a position where I didn't need a transfer, so I burnt it. I think that's all good. Stick it up, mate, and let's have a chat about it and see what you can do. I'm just going to talk about wildcard strategy. I did touch upon it briefly earlier. Now, I think at this stage of the season, we don't need to get too into wildcard strategy, but I just wanted to question that conventional wisdom. A lot of people are saying, well, do it in the international break around game week 8 or 9. What I've realised, again, with FPL Tactician, getting a lot of plugs tonight, is that there's a nice little opportunity for me that I think to play the wild card after Liverpool's tricky fixture run. So they play Man City this week. They've also got Chelsea, Arsenal in 2 of the 3 weeks before that, and I think Brighton obviously can also be a difficult team to play. Now, assuming that nearly all of us are on 3 Liverpool assets, it seems to me like a good time to move off Liverpool players for a few weeks. Not totally necessary, but at least to go down to 2 or maybe even 1 in order to bring in other players. Now, Liverpool, all of them, they've always got good fixtures because they're a good team. Fixtures don't matter as much for them, but potentially moving off them then could work quite well. Man City, they've got a nice run, so you probably wouldn't be jumping off, but once you get to game week 11 again, you might want to go down to 1 or 2. Now, I'm loosely looking at a wild card in game week 12. That's a tricky game for Man City, but again, you know, I can deal with that. I think Liverpool, what have they got in game week 12? They've got West Ham at home, which is a fine game, really. It would only be then picking a team for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before the World Cup comes. So you'd be able to just sort of really pick a short-term team then to sprint into the World Cup and hopefully have a good time there. Now, at this stage of the season, I always think like just play wildcard when you feel like you need it and when you think you can make an upgrade on your team. But loosely, that's what I'm looking at. And loosely, I'm also looking at playing the bench boost in game week 11. So if we go forward to the game week 11 fixtures, I've said all along, like I feel like that with wildcards, with bench boost, I want to try and get it done and play it at a point in the season where I feel happy to do it. Now, Andreas Pereira has got Bournemouth at home. So he's one of my subs. Ward is my sub goalkeeper, assuming he's still got the shirt. He's got Crystal Palace at home. Sanchez hasn't got a great game, but there's an argument to actually use a transfer on Sanchez before then because they've got Liverpool in 9. Tottenham in 10. Leicester's fixture actually okay there. But again, for a keeper, I don't mind playing him in that fixture. I could sell him for someone else. Andreas, let me just reset. Andreas, assuming he's fit, is there. I doubt I have Neto and Bailey still by that point in the season, to be honest. It's just a question for me of upgrading Archer into a better player. But if I do downgrade one of Bailey or Neto, I can look at potentially bringing in one of the real budget mids for this week that would do me a job with these fixtures. We've got some 4.5 options. Hopefully one or two others will emerge. Lavia has got West Ham at home. Again, that's fine. De Silva, if he's not going to be as cheap. Brighton at home is okay. But again, you've got to manage your expectations for this, right? Nico Williams hasn't got the worst ever fixture at Wolves if you're on him. I would need to upgrade that third striker slot. So I'd be looking to do that, especially just in game week 11, probably move the funds into the third striker slot for that 1 week and then wildcard out and it's done and I don't have to think about it for the rest of the season. And I can focus all my funds on my 11 for the rest of the season there. So that's what I'm thinking basically. And I also thought what might be quite fun, and I quite like to do this, is to create a game week 3 wildcard. If I was wildcarding this week, I know other people will be, and I think I like to do this. It's something I've got from Sky and Sky Game where I've done well in the past. Try and create a wildcard team, and then you can sort of work your current team around up towards the ideal wildcard team, and you can be like, well, that's fine. This player's pretty similar, but actually there might be one or two players who you think I really do want to try and get to. So I'm going to build a wildcard team for people who are wildcarding in game week 3, and also just as a discipline to see what I'd go for if I was doing it myself. So for starters, I think I'd be looking at maintaining Cancelo and Trent. I'd maintain the keepers, happy with them. Arguably you could go for Raya over Sanchez, but it's a 50-50 call. And I like these 3 mids. Salah's got a couple of great games to come still. I wouldn't lose him. Andreas is great value, I think, as a 4.5 sub. I've already talked about Martinelli and Jesus. And Haaland is one that I wouldn't feel totally wedded to. But for now, I'm just going to build a team with him in it to see. Big Geek, I'll come and look at your team in a sec. If anyone does have any other questions, by the way, chuck them in the chat and I'm happy to answer them. But I'm just going to build it's not going to take me long. I'm just going to build a really quick wildcard side that I could sort of theoretically work towards. Looking ahead. So I'll leave that 5th defender slot for now, but I think I definitely have those 4 in my defence: Zinchenko, James, Trent and Cancelo. I think it's likely I'd have Jesus and Haaland. How much have I got? 22 million, so decent cash. I would have an 8 million mid. I think I would have Foden as my third Man City player. That leaves 14.9. Let's keep Archer because I'm not excited about the striker slots. Like, I do like Tony and Wilson, but I think value-wise, I just don't think they offer value at 7 million compared to some of the other options that are available. So let's stick with Archer. So I'd have a starting 4 there, and then I'd have a starting 3 in midfield, and I've got my 2 up front. And then really it's then another defender. So the absolute max that I could spend on this slot if I went for a cheap mid, let's say I go down to the 4.5 mid. Someone said Andre Gomez could be dropping soon to be a 4.4 mid. Don't know if that's happened yet. Well, we've got El Neni, but I'm not going to use an Arsenal slot. So let's just pick any 4.5 mid as just a placeholder. And then you've got 5.9 in defence there to slot in another player. So to be honest, like I said, there's a lot of good options. I'm not too fussy, but let's say, it could be a Perisic, it could be a Trippier, it could be Cucurella, it could be Walker. Any of those are fine. Obviously, I've got my 3 City. But the good news for me when I do this exercise is basically I'm very, very close to what I think is an ideal wildcard team. So let's say it's Cucurella, for instance. I'm very close to where I want to be. And that's reassuring. And basically, these are the 3 strikers I have. I've got Martinelli, I've got Salah, I've got Andreas. Now, I haven't got an 8 million mid slot, and I think that is something I want to work towards that I talked about earlier. And Campbell, for all intents and purposes, I've got Leon Bailey, right? That's absolutely fine. Like I say, it's a marginal difference there. I consider Bailey just to be a pretty poor sub option. He was such an obvious trap in hindsight. He could have been great. I don't regret picking him, but he's going to go down on the list of players like Baselli and others, isn't he? Unless he can turn it around pretty fast. He's also got that horrible fixture on coming. He needs something in these next 2 games and to try and get in the team. If he's just starting most of the games, I'll be happy. So basically, that just reaffirms my plan, I think, to say I'm going to look to downgrade my defence a little. I'll get James in and then look to downgrade into these 5 million slots and look to bring in an 8 million mid, and I'd be happy with that. That's the sort of structure I think that looks really, really good right now. So that's just a touch on what a wild card will look like for me this week, and also just a little bit to share about my wild card plans. Big Geek, let's come to your team. So you've got Edison and then Ward on the bench. You've got Trent, Cancelo, James and Gabriel as defenders, with Nico Williams as a sub. Then you've got Salah, Diaz, Martinelli, Neto and Pereira as a sub, with Haaland and Jesus. You put James, but yeah, Jesus. So I guess the question for me, Big Geek, in the position you're in, your team looks great, well done. And the same for anyone else who's in a similar position, would be, while your team looks good, like what I've just done with this wildcard, where do you want to get it to? Is there something you want to do with your team structure that's going to be different? So you've got Cancelo, Trent, James, and then you've got Gabriel and Nico Williams. I'm just going to make up the team quickly. Like, I do slightly question whether... I mean, Edison's got great fixtures. I can see keeping him for the next couple of weeks for sure makes sense. He's one where I'm thinking, like, well, you could arguably use a transfer there. I think you're probably forcing it. Gabriel at 5 million. Is he the best 5 million option as a defender? I'm not sure about that either. That would be another place where I may look to do it. I really like 5 at the back, so that's the structure that I have, but I can understand why you've got something different. You've got Salah, Martinelli, you've got Neto, you've got Pereira, and you've got Luis Diaz. Our teams are very similar, really, aren't they? Looks like we picked well, mate. So this is the team you've got, Big Geek. I mean, I suppose for me, when I look at that, Gabriel, I don't think he's the best 5 million defender option, but the fixtures are good. Do you want to be selling before that 3? Probably not. Yeah, I mean, Neto as well as a 5.5 mid. He's got Tottenham away. I think his fixtures stiffen. Tottenham away is difficult. Newcastle at home is difficult. And then he's got Bournemouth and Southampton. Now, that might be where I look to use the move, to be honest. Guess who says what we keep playing to wildcard? You've probably just tuned in, just talked about it. If you just rewind about 5 minutes. But basically, I'm loosely looking at game week 12. But I would certainly not rule out using it much sooner. But I've explained my logic for that. I think, mate, Big Geek, if I was you, I would sell Neto. I think. I'm happy to hold him, personally, but I think in the team that you've got here, I would sell Neto. Because you assume you got your 2 free transfers, which in fact I know you do. I think I would just look to bring in someone who could play the next couple of game weeks for me and do a job. Let's have a look. Where are we at with points at this price point? So, I mean, it's such a dodgy bunch, isn't it? Let's have a look. Aribo would be... Nope, not... they're not... But to be fair, I looked at the red and said no. Leicester Man aren't terrible fixtures, but I just don't think that's necessarily a good move. They've got horrible fixtures as well. Oh man, it's such a bad bunch, isn't it? I said I'd do that. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe there's just nothing to buy there. What have Everton got next couple? Forest and Brentford, and then Leeds. I mean, it's hard to get excited about bringing in Gordon for Neto, but that would be something that I would consider. Just looking through the list here, there's not a lot of excitement. Wissa, he came off the bench and did well, but they're not going to change the team, are they? Despite they've got fantastic fixtures. Brendan Aronson's been looking good, but they've got Chelsea next. Oh, mate. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, having said that, I do that. There's nothing there that's particularly exciting me. Yeah. I mean, Alexis McAllister. I really love Alexis McAllister as a bit of an out there pick. But realistically, I wouldn't be using my transfer and buying him. But I do think he could do okay. In which case, yeah, you could burn the transfer. Or you could look at bringing in a more optimal 5 million 5 million defender like potentially Cucurella. Simply on the basis that I think I don't know. I'm forcing it. You'd be forcing it too, wouldn't you? So yeah, I think it's fine to burn it. It's a real dilemma. So well done having such a great team, and yeah, you could again use your money, restructure, go Edison downwards, but I don't see it. I think you're fine to burn it, mate. Real tricky one, that one. Yeah, Noah's saying, I think so. Just to say, TW saying who for Neto, similar position, 0.5 in the bank. I think Rodrigo at Leeds is the one I'd definitely be looking at 6 million if I had the extra 0.5. So again, you could look at downgrading your keeper. You could look at downgrading Gabriel to a 4.5, like to a Dunk, for instance, and upgrading Neto to Rodrigo. That's arguably worthwhile. But again, it does feel like a little bit forced. Big Geek, hope for an injury in the week. I know exactly what you mean. I've been in that position before where it's like, I'm in a strong position. If someone gets injured, the chaos it will cause for other people is worth the transfer for you. Oh, has Rodrigo gone up? Boo. Yeah, that makes sense because he's doing really well. Yeah, he has gone up. 6 million mids. Yeah, maybe Jack Harrison, 6 million, creating a lot of chances. And I really think that Marsh is telling those mids to get on and get in the attack. No, said McAllister is an option. I think he is an option in terms of, I think he's a real creator. And I think, okay, he plays deeper. Well, Caicedo's there breaking up the play alongside him. He's more like the get on the ball and make things happen player. Yeah, interesting. People talk about Gross. I've got to say, I don't love Gross. I know he's had a great start to the season, but I don't love Gross as a pick. Never have done, and I think he's liable to be rotated if his performances drop off at all. He can also play at wing back sometimes. It's a pretty bad set of players at that position. Guess who's saying that he's got Grealish, Cash and Neto? Should I get any out? Yes, mate. You should. I'm sorry to say it. But I think Neto keep. He's definitely nailed to play. Cash has had some injury problems. He came off with cramp at the weekend. I think you're okay to tell Cash. Grealish, I think, has got to go. You've got to get rid of Grealish. He could play, but he may well not, and I think he's got to go. Yeah, so I'd do that. Yeah, Noah's saying that Gross is 90 minutes set piece and advanced at the moment. He's advanced at the moment, I agree. And he has been good in the past in FPL, in his first season particularly. Probably best you're going to get a 5.5. Yeah, you could go Neto to Gross. It just feels like a problem waiting to happen though, doesn't it? Like, Neto is a player who you know is going to play in that winger position every game. After Tottenham, I don't fancy Newcastle, but he's got really good fixtures in 5 and 6. And I think he's worth holding for that. You're only probably going to want him back, and you might have other fires to fight by then, not be able to get him. So I can see the argument for just holding Neto and just saying, look, he's got harder fixtures, but he's a better, more attacking player who's more central to his team, and do that. Yeah. Gross on pens too. Yeah, he could be. Yeah, Mopai obviously has gone to Forest. Yeah, could be. Someone whose name I can't read, sorry, don't speak that language, but he says Brentford players are great options. I think Brentford players are great options, not just for Game with You, but just going forward. I think Tony just nearly made my team to begin with, and obviously he would have done really well. I'm going to finish off very soon, by the way, just to say, but happy to answer the questions that are coming into the chat. Not sure what Gross's nailedness is like. Yeah, well, I'm pretty familiar with Brighton, live in Brighton, follow them pretty closely. My son supports them. I would say I'm a follower of the team. I would say basically Potter makes a lot of changes to the side. He's kept the same team 2 weeks in a row so far, and I think they played very well again. I don't see him dropping out the team soon, but I definitely think there's every possibility he could move to right wing back without much warning. But, you know, at that price point, if you've got transfers to burn like Big Geek has, it's just that thing of you're just taking a punt, aren't you, for a week or two. That's game week 11. Sorry, I was talking about wildcard. So, but again, do you really want to buy Gross for West Ham away? I just don't think you do, personally. So I wouldn't go there. It's just a poor set of players. The person who had 6 million, I think, bringing in Leeds against Chelsea. It's just, I know what I'm saying right now isn't very helpful, but it's just a horrible bunch of players at a horrible price point. I think arguably Anthony Gordon home to Forest might be the one that I'd look if I just wanted to go like 1 week, 2 week. I think that might be where I look personally. I'll park that one. I've talked about it for a while. I think I'll go Gordon in at 5.5. Let's have a look. What have we got? Christopher Brennan. Between Robertson and Archer to Tony and Nico Williams to swap formation to do your team up, yeah. Or Robertson and Neto to Perisic and Zaha. Not many people talking about Zaha. My feeling on Palace was they had a difficult run of fixtures. I do like Zaha at a 7 million price point. Showed tonight you can score against anyone. I think I'd want to get past Man City, probably, and I do really rate Newcastle as well. And I think Brentford's not easy. He is on pens. I mean, if I do wildcard game week 12, look at that. Wolves, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest in before the World Cup. Very nice indeed. And I expect it to be popular after as well when they got Fulham and Bournemouth straight away first up. I think Christopher, I would say, I mean, again, Robertson and Archer. So in terms of your starting player, basically going Robertson to Tony. It doesn't fill me with excitement, especially as you're having to make a second transfer to switch your team up. Robertson and Neto. I think I'd go for the Robertson and Neto to Perisic and Zaha, just because I think you're solving the short-term Neto problem. I would look at doing that. But again, it doesn't fill me with excitement, I've got to be honest. Neither of those feel brilliant to me. Guess who's saying who for Grealish? Hard to say without seeing your team. If you've only got 7 million, I think I'd try and free some funds and get to an 8 million player, basically. I just think the 8 million mids are so much better than the other options available. Christopher's picking Zaha. Don't hate it. But I would definitely personally try and push on to that 8 million mids. I just think those guys, I think there's such good options at 8 million, all of them. Yeah. Let's see what we've got here. I'd probably move it from midfield and try and get Tony or a defender. Yeah. Yeah, Gross does look good from going at 4 onwards, I agree. Connor Murray, would you take a 4-point hit to get rid of Nunez, and to who? Connor, have you been using your transfers early? Sounds like you might have been. Be interested to know if you have, who you transferred in already. Was it De Silva? Because it's that thing. I don't want to tell you off, we're all friends here, there's no judgment. But this is why early transfers can really bite you on the bum, basically. I think 4-point, to be honest, if you need to, I think getting rid of, getting Nunez to, that's an impactful position, basically, that Nunez is in. He's expensive, he's at a high price point. I think it's worth 4 points. We talked about Tony. I think Tony would be a really good option there. Who else? Don't know if you could stretch to Vardy, but Vardy loves playing Southampton, as we know. Could be a good one. If you haven't got Jesus, I'd definitely be going there. I think all of those players look like well worth a 4-point hit this week, and it sorts you out for the next few weeks. So I wouldn't hesitate to take a 4-point hit, Connor, if that's the position. It was De Silva and Ben Mee. Oh my goodness, Ben Mee, no. To be fair, Brentford defence could come good, but using an early transfer on Ben Mee is a bold move. But fortune favours the brave, perhaps. But I would definitely take that 4-point hit. But wait as long as you can, get as close to the deadline as you can, unless the price changes are going to screw you over. If you're not sure about how to check price changes, FPLstatistics.co.uk is the place to go for that. Christopher, you're right. Neither are exciting options. 2 free transfers burning a hole in my pocket. Yeah, that's it. But I would think if you've not got much to do, I would really try and hold on to the second free transfer as a core principle and try and keep that rolling forward, because it could be you get an injury or two next week and it becomes useful. Guess who's saying his team is Sanchez, Cash, Gabriel, Reece James, Trent, Salah, Martinelli, Grealish, Diaz, Jesus, Haaland, bench, Neto, Anderson, Greenwood. So you've got in Neto, you've got a really strong player for your bench there. You've only got 1 free transfer, so that's fair enough. I think for me, my priorities in that team, it's in the chat if anyone can't see it, my priorities would be to look at freeing up some funds out of Cash and or Neto and or Grealish, and probably condensing that down. Like I said, I think Pereira is such a good 4.5 option. I think I would probably look at going from... you got Joachim Andersen as well, is another really good bench. I think you've got a really good team there, but I think I'd look at probably going from either Cash to Nico Williams or Neto to Andres Pereira to free up $1 million, and then look at going Grealish up to one of the 8 million mids. That would be where I go. You'd still have a good solid bench option, and I think you'd have a much improved 11. We got a few other. Guess who should I take a -4? I wouldn't. I honestly wouldn't. Not with that team. I think for this week you just hold on. It's just a big question mark for me whether you start Grealish or not. I think I'd be tempted. You got Anderson and Neto on the bench. I think personally. So the way that I work the psychology of it, so I start Anderson against Aston Villa, assuming that's Joachim Anderson, and bench Grealish probably, and then I'd look at this week probably trying to sell. Probably look at trying to sell. Who would I look to sell out of that bunch this week? I guess Neto if you're not playing him. Go down to Andres Pereira if he's fit. But I don't think there's any need. In fact, I wouldn't do that. You've only got one free transfer. Roll the transfer. Bench Grealish. Start Anderson would be the way I would go with that. But the way, just to say, psychologically, one of the things I do when I think about -4 is to say, right, if the difference in my team is going to be, say, for instance, you're going to upgrade Grealish to Foden or you're going to start Grealish. It's that thing of like, well, let's say Grealish starts the game and only gets 2 points. You've also got the 4 points that you would have got. Would you be happy with 6 points from Grealish this week? Yes, you would, I'm imagining. Therefore, if you're happy with 6 points from Grealish, why would you say go for a 2 point? Go for a -4 rather, because you're basically getting 6 points off Grealish by sticking with him. Does that make sense? That's how I sort of conceptualise the -4 of try and see those points as points gained by not spending them. Tan and Jacobs. Generally, I don't want to do too many rate my teams, but I'll do this one. Raya, Chilwell. I mean, Chilwell's the one that's got to go there. Straight away, he's got to go. Raya, Chilwell, Cancelo, Robertson, Trent, James. Nice premium defence, but Chilwell's got to go. Martinelli, Neto, Salah, Jesus, Kane. I like the team apart from that. Very nice. Andreas, Bailey, Archer. I would look at getting Chilwell out for... if you rewind the stream to much earlier, I talk about the defenders' options. I would look at getting Chilwell out to either Zinchenko maybe, or possibly, let's say Zinchenko. I think would be that team you've got there would make most sense because you've got the Arsenal spot. That would free you up some money, 0.9. You could either just roll the second transfer into the coming week, or you could look at Neto to Rodrigo. I probably wouldn't do that on the basis that he's got a tricky fixture. I would just probably sit on the second free transfer would be my move, Tanin. Oh, you said below, was thinking Chilwell to Zinchenko. Yep, I like Chilwell to Zinchenko. I would personally hold off on Bailey to Gross. It's just a sub. I don't think you need to do it. I think that second free transfer could prove more useful down the line. And Connor's saying, is there a chance Vardy won't start? I mean, there's always a chance, right? I don't think he came off injured. I think they just were freshening it up. But I think Vardy will play, and I think he's a great differential this week. Could easily get double figures. Right, I'm going to finish off. I'm just going to double check my team because I won't be going back on for a little while. Sanchez versus Ward. So again, when I'm 50-50 on a decision like this, I just go to the clean sheet odds and see. Let me just check as well. Zinchenko's on the verge of a price rise, guys, so that's something to be aware of. Tony, De Bruyne and Jesus are looking like they will go up. And then Zinchenko and Martinelli are going strong. Oh, it looks like someone's spamming with some sexy messages. Reece James, 48.1. So that's going to be one for me to keep an eye on. Oh, man, this person. Ugh. Let's... I don't know how he does. Let's report them. And let's say... hide user on this channel. Okay, all gone. So Trippier is not going to drop. James, I just need to keep an eye on. And if we get anywhere near to close, that's all my friends. If we get anywhere near to close, I will. I'll make that move. So clean sheet odds quickly as well. Just to make that choice between Ward and Sanchez. Oh, there you go. This website that I've never heard of has got them for FPL. Let's see what they're saying. Clean sheet odds for game week 3. So here we go. We've got Tottenham at the top, very close behind Arsenal and Man City. Then a little drop off, a decent drop off to Chelsea, Liverpool and Everton. Oof, don't fancy that. Then Leicester are at 33%, Brighton at 26%. So on that basis, I'm just going to go for Ward. I trust the bookies. Do I trust the bookies more than I trust myself? I don't see a clean sheet, but I don't know. It's 50-50. Do you know what? Sometimes make a decision like this where it's like you pick something and then there's something that says, nah, don't want to do it. And actually, right then, when I was going to put Ward in the team, I'm like, nah, I'm just going to stick with Sanchez. West Ham have been misfiring. Brighton are a much better team than Leicester. I don't fancy the Leicester defence. Forget the bookies. I'm going to say Sanchez over Ward. So this is my bus team. Now, I do probably, like I said, I'm going away on a trip on Wednesday. I do want to have some options up my sleeve. The whole concept of this stream and my season this year is that I'm only going to be tinkering if I'm online, and I don't want to be online basically because I want to be on holiday. So I do need to make a plan. If Andreas is out, then I do need to make a plan for my team. So let's have a little quick play with that. Bookies back the home games, aren't they? Yeah, maybe, but I guess there's good reason for that now, potentially. Yeah, let's have a look anyway, because if I decide to... If Andreas is not fit... I'm going to assume Andreas is sort of not long-term injured, but in this. And I would look to move on Bailey if I need an extra starter this week, I think. Now, I may reconsider, having talked about all these dross options in midfield, might have to look at bringing one in. This is my shortlist before the season. I said Gordon was the one who I felt like could play, and that would then leave me 5.5. So I think if Andreas is out, I think I'll probably go for Zinchenko and Gordon. Gordon, I quite like him as an option in FPL, to be honest. I know he's a bit of a unpolished player, and I'm worried that Chelsea could potentially come and swoop in and settle him. There's also Damari Gray as an option at the same price for Everton. They've got a good fixture. So I think I might look at that if Andreas Pereira is confirmed out. And if Andreas Pereira is longer term injured, I'd need to come up with some horrendous plan that involves moving him on. But again, I think I'd be looking at that price point I'd just be looking to move sideways to another 4.5, I guess. I'd be very reluctant to sell him unless he's out for a long time. I'm not even going to think about it, to be honest. I'm wondering whether I could potentially get to an 8 million mid. Maybe that's where I might look if Andres Pereira's out, like bit of a team restructure. Look at moving up to like I couldn't do Foden, I've got 3 City. If I sold Robbo, I could look at Luis Diaz there and go down for a defender at 4.5. I think probably I'd look at an Arsenal one just because they've got a nice little run. I am slightly concerned about Tomiyasu coming back into the team, which could arguably put me off, but maybe I'd look at like Ben White. Maybe I'd look at doubling up on Brighton as well. They've got a good run of fixtures coming up. So if Andres Pereira's out longer term, maybe I'd look at that sort of a move. That would put me into a 4 at the back there with a 4-4-2. I think I'd be fine with that. So there's a few different options of things I could do. But loosely my plan will be to go Trippier to James. Connor saying, before you end, what do you think about Firmino differential? As Klopp said he should be back for the United game. Yeah, I did mention him earlier on. I think Firmino is a decent option. He's just not explosive, and I think I'd probably be looking to go for someone like a Tony from Darwin and try and reinvest the money somewhere else in my team. Like you could go Darwin down to Tony, upgrade someone like a Neto into maybe up to like a Foden or a Diaz even. That's where I'd be looking to go. But I don't hate it. At all. So yeah, that's where we're at. I think I'm happy with my bus team set up like this. Happy with my starting lineup. Don't love Neto, and I don't love Andreas, but basically Trippier will become James, and then I'll probably bench Neto over Andreas Pereira, I think. Again, I'll have a quick look at the bookies odds actually, just to see about their goal scoring odds. Premier League goal, Wolves, Tottenham odds, and I'm just going to use William Hill again just because I feel like their website is quite easy to use. I have enough for Vardy, so I'll probably do that. I really like that, Connor. I think it's a fairly short-term move, but I think it's a great one-week punt, and if you've not got other fires to fix in your team, then I feel like it's a fantastic differential move. And if you want it to be really brave, you could even captain him. That would be really, really brave. But I would love to see that sort of move come off for someone. But I think just bringing him in is a ballsy, good shout. Having said their website's easy to use, I now don't know how to use it. Is there a clean sheet coupon? Ugh. I'm not even looking for clean sheets, am I? Maybe their website is not easy to use. Premier League odds. I'm just trying to find out this Andres Pereira versus Andres Pereira versus Neto pick. Now obviously Andres Pereira is arguably more likely to get an assist because he's got his set pieces and stuff. Blimey, this is a laborious end, isn't it? Let's just go to a website. Thanks for subbing, Connor. That's a good prompt if you'd like to sub, if you want to hear more or get your questions answered or just come and see how my season goes bit by bit, then please do sub. I'm not going to log in. You don't see what my username is here, do you? Then please do sub. If you've enjoyed the stream or you got something helpful out of it, do give it a like. Helps people find it. And obviously, if you ever want to share when I'm streaming, it's always fun. The more the merrier. Not really doing it for the followers, but at the same time, if I'm going to do it, it's nice to have people in on the stream. It's nice to chat with you guys. Appreciate you guys taking the time to comment as well. It's good. It makes it fun. Let's have a quick look at goal scorers to come. Oh, am I looking at the wrong thing? Player. Gosh. So we've got Pedro Neto, anytime goal scorer, 11-2. See Andreas Pereira. I think he's going to be lower than that, isn't he? Fulham, Brentford, goal scorer anytime, Andreas Pereira, 11-2. He's exactly the same. So I think on that basis, I would probably just about favour Andreas Pereira over Neto. And as a sub, I'm going to put Neto over Bailey just because I think he's got the minutes safely down. And then I'll be doing Trippier to James, rolling the other one, and sticking with that, I think, and then seeing how my other transfers pan out. One quick little bit of housekeeping is, like I said, I'm going away on a trip, so my plan will be to bring in James. I'll make probably a very short video of me doing that just to keep up the the concept of being live. But then I'm away for sort of 2 and a bit weeks, doing various bits and pieces. So I think probably I won't be doing any long streams in the next couple of weeks. I think it will be maybe the odd video here or there, but probably not streaming, just enjoying a little break with the family, time off work, time just to rest. So probably won't be around much, but my plan when I get back is to try and pick a regular slot, and it'll probably be late on a Sunday night will be my regular slot to stream in, and then potentially I'll do like a Friday afternoon one around 4 o'clock as well, to get myself at the end of the week, lock my team in, and probably one will be like this one, a bit of a longer one of thinking through my options, thinking through the headlines, and then the other one will be picking my team and locking my team in. So this is where I'm at for this week. I've got Sanchez in goal, I've got Trent and Robbo, Cancelo and Diaz, and then this will be Reece James probably. then Andreas Pereira, Martinelli, Salah, Jesus and Haaland. As I go through it, I've got to say I am tempted by Jesus with the armband. I've got the double up on attack. I'm already invested in Arsenal attack. Arguably, I think there's a good argument to make to push it even further. Shall I do it? I don't fancy Bournemouth defence at all, and Arsenal have been very, very good. Surely Ten Hag gets Man United defending better. More people will be on Salah. I don't know. That's one to ponder. I might well watch the Arsenal match, actually. It's on. I won't be watching the Liverpool match. I'm going to be travelling while the Liverpool match is on. So I think on that basis, it's more fun, isn't it, to pick the player that you're going to do. And FPL is about having fun. So I'm going to captain Jesus for fun and stick him in there. So that's where I'm at. I don't feel overly confident, to be honest, in my team this week. I feel like my defenders, these four, have all got tricky fixtures. I quite like having Reece James in my team. Andreas is just fodder. Anything he gets is a bonus beyond 2. I don't expect it. These two, Martinelli and Jesus, is where most of my hope is. And then Salah and Haaland are players who can obviously do well in any game. But again, I feel like Haaland, that's not an easy game for him. And I think for Salah, he should do well. So that's where my team's at. I've got a solid first sub in Neto. Bailey is just... Let's just hope he can turn it round. Otherwise, he's going to have to be on the chopping block. And that's where we're at. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for all your chats, all your comments. I've really appreciated it. It's been fun. Let's hope for a good FPL game week next week. I'm thinking I'm at 407k. I'm thinking if I can get another decent rank this week, then going to be really, that'll be an excellent start to the season. It already feels like a good one so far, but if I get another top 1 million game week rank, it would be a really excellent start to the season. But having said that, I think if I can probably hold in there, say like maybe a bit 600k, 700k by the end of next game week, given the players I've got and the way it's going, I'd be satisfied with that, to be honest. So like a red arrow like that will be absolutely fine, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, wishing you all lots of luck. Any decisions you've got to make, hope you get them, and have a good rest of week. And yeah, well, like I said, I won't be streaming for a bit, but I'll see you around, and I'll be on Twitter at SimpleGoal. So do find me on there, and good luck with your choices. I'm now going to try and work out how to end the stream. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. See you later.